Atlas seems to be middling between doing DLC and re-releases. Whether or not this is problematic is a topic I'd rather discuss in its own video. But there is one game we really haven't gotten a re-release for, and it might come sooner or later. So will Soul Hackers 2 see a re-release like Atlas's other games?
In just a few weeks, my plan would have come to fruition. But no, you just had to interfere!
Right now, it's still too early to write off this game from getting a re-release. Persona 5 launched in Japan in 2016 and saw a release 3 years later with Persona 5 Royal. Shin Megami Tensei 5 launched in 2021 and is getting its re-release about 2.5 years later. Soul Hackers 2 launched in 2022, so a re-release of some kind could still be up in the air. There's a lot going for and going against a potential re-release of this game, and I think that's worth discussing.
Yeah, I'm the payoff, and you're the punchline!
Soul Hackers 2 was a game that missed its mark, at least in my opinion. It's not that it was bad, I genuinely think the game was fine, but it wasn't that good of an experience either. If a number scale helps, I'd say it's kind of a 5 out of 10 game. The overall experience isn't the worst thing I've ever had, or even really bad, I'd say, but it was rough. Even with post-launch patches, there's only so much you can do to iron out the issues present within the game's narrative and gameplay with no monetary returns. A re-release could allow greater changes to happen and improve upon the quality of the original release greatly. That said, it also is kind of difficult for them to alter some of the issues with the original game. Kind of bland, samey feelings between every single dungeon and Soul Matrix would require a lot of effort than it may be worth to do. Additionally, adding dungeons to the game might make the game feel like it's padding its runtime. This of course depends on if the additions are natural, or if they decide to do an SMT5 route and just make an entirely different storyline. On the other hand though, additions and changes could be made to the narrative that could greatly benefit characters in the story itself. I think the cast of Soul Hackers 2 is interesting, but it felt like a lot of missed potential because of how quickly some of their primary issues get resolved. And it's not that those issues don't come up again later, but it feels like once they're resolved the first time, the second time it's just not as strong. So there's a lot that could be fixed with a re-release, but why is it possible for this not to happen?
I'm gonna give it a shot, so watch my back.
The primary reason I have for this, and probably the biggest one, is sales. Soul Hackers 2 may not have even broke 1 million units. We know that Atlas has said that the game failed to meet expectations and they hoped it would sell over time. But most every major Atlas title that hits 1 million sales gets a special announcement or illustration when it happens. SMT5 and Persona 5 both exceeded expectations in terms of sales, and both of them did at least reach 1 million. Soul Hackers 2 has not gotten this as of making this video, and it's almost been 2 years since launch. You could argue that a re-release with good reviews could revitalize it and turn this around into a big success, but sometimes the damage is already done. People are not picking up this game because its general consensus is that it's just fine. It's not on the level of SMT or Persona in quality. And whether people should have expected that level of quality or not is not the point here. It has rough patches, and while some definitely do love the game, it's not surprising to find that people are not blown away by it either. Soul Hackers 2 now has a reputation since it's been out for a while, and a re-release may not do much to alleviate that. Watching the same game fail twice just might not be worth it in the long run.
Do we seriously have to go through some DLC too?
I know there's some rumors that Atlas is moving forward with the DLC post-launch support kind of approach for their games. And while I'd very much like that rumor to be true, the only example we have of that right now is Persona 3 Reload. In that game's case, it made sense for DLC to be added post-launch, since the original episode Aegis is a separate selection on the main menu. They could have made this new story route for SMT5 a DLC, but they didn't, since as far as I know, there aren't a lot of changes happening to the main original story, and it could have just been a DLC for, at least for people who own the Switch version. But they didn't wind up doing that. It's a full re-release. And until I see with my own eyes that they have stopped doing this re-release track for good, I will assume there will be one in some form. So I'd give it until about 2027, where P3 Reload doesn't get a re-release, allegedly, that I'd finally be convinced that they're not doing this re-release thing. I personally am pretty convinced that Reload is not getting one, and I might have to eat my words on this probably, but I see this expansion pass as the game being done afterwards. FMC is honestly a greater undertaking than it may be worth, and that's unfortunate as it is. But also, this video kind of isn't about that. So in short, I hope we're done with the re-releases, but I would not be even a little bit surprised if we aren't. And do I think Soul Hackers 2 should get a re-release? Honestly, no. I played that game once, and that was more than enough time for me. I'll probably revisit it down the line, but I truly remember not being especially pleased with it as a whole. And I don't currently have that much desire to play it again like I do with other Atlas titles. But do you think that Soul Hackers 2 should get a re-release? Let me know in the comments below. As always, you can leave a like if you enjoyed the video, and subscribe to the channel for more things JRPG and Atlas related. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you guys next time.
Yeah. Yep.